All right, excellent. Well, welcome to lesson 20 of year 3 of the science class. And in this lesson, we are going to talk about roots. Before we do that, though, I would like to entertain any questions you may have about the comprehensive exams. So the comprehensive quiz or the long essay exam. Okay. So Nathan, this is now the time for you to ask your question on that.
Okay, so I have a question for I have a few. It's first one's for question 22.
Mm-hmm.
And I put it's about the yeast of bread. And I put yeast of bread, and then I said incorrect. The answer is yeast of bread. And so I put the answer, and they said I was incorrect, but I had the answer. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. So let me see if I can find that. Okay. So let's see if we can go. It's this question, this one here. The one.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I put for the bread yummy yeast, fine and fluffy, but I was wrong, and the answer was yummy. I meant light and fluffy for the yeast.
Okay, so I'll check on that. Let me write that down. And that. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let me. Okay. Check. Nathan. Yeast. Bread. Okay. So if there's a problem, I can change the points on the question and everything. No problem with that. Okay.
And that's also for 26 about the metabolic rate, and it was about what process helps digest your food. And I put the metabolism, and it said I was wrong, and it said, and that as I was studying before with the other quizzes, it said that was the correct answer, but looking on the quiz, it said it was incorrect.
Okay, so this was a matching to match this one. The process is to whether it was a metabolic process or catabolic process. Is that what it was? Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I put metabolic rate, and that was the correct answer for the quiz after the lesson. Well, it was incorrect on this quiz.
Oh, okay. Let me check that one. Okay, I'll check that afterwards, and I'll let you know. Any other?
I have one more.
Uh-huh.
Question 28. I found it in the lesson, and I found it in the lesson, and then I clicked on it, and then it said it was wrong. And it was in the family school online, but when I clicked it, it said it was wrong.
Mm-hmm. For this is the question also. Uh-huh.
That's the question.
Okay, I'll check that. Okay. All right. Anything else?
No, that's good.
All right, excellent. Okay, good deal. Anyone else has any questions about the quiz?
Yes.
Go ahead.
What was the overall average?
Sorry?
What was the overall average of all the people who took the quiz?
Excellent question there. So here we have the scores, okay, the spread. So in here is translating the scores into percentages. So 65, which would be what, approximately 27, 26 points, something like that. And you see here the spread of all the scores. Each one of these bars means one person got, this one means two people got about this score. Okay. So it went quite a bit all over the map, okay? But frankly, if you did here within, between 25 to 35 points, that is kind of the average. Okay.
That's good.
All right. So I think that you did pretty good. This was a tough exam, okay? But I think that it was a worthwhile experience for everyone. Okay. So something that you need to understand is that scores, okay, so normally in schools, they translate percentages directly onto a letter grade, okay? That is not necessarily the case, and most of the times you see that the translation is like 92% and above is an A, then you have 90 to 92 A minus, and so on. That is totally an arbitrary scale, all right, and it's not set in stone, and it's nothing really that guides my judgment to be the truth. So if you see here, for example, here a 65%, that average, that would certainly not correspond to what normally you would see as a letter grade for a 65%. Okay, I would consider that this would be probably about a B, so if it's on average. Okay, so don't worry about that. This is all in order for you to know how you are learning. Does that make sense? Aubrey, let me unmute you, okay? And you are asking some questions. Do you want to ask the questions you have about here this quiz?
So I wasn't aware that we were that this quiz for this particular one, and is it labeled differently, or like what quiz number is that? Because I don't know if
So I put it here on January 19. Okay, that was the date when the quiz was, I think, due, and it was basically in place. We did both the quiz, the comprehensive quiz, and the comprehensive long essay exam, instead of doing an assignment for lesson 18. So lesson 18 didn't have an assignment. We did the comprehensive exams. If you miss the opportunity to take this quiz, this comprehensive quiz and the exam, send me an email and I can manually open that for you. Okay? That is for anyone who would like to take it if they miss the opportunity. So the comprehensive quiz is a 40-question, 60-minute quiz with basically reviewing all the lessons from cytology. And the long essay exam is basically a 90-minute quiz with 2 questions, and so you need to write 2 essays in 90 minutes that explain, there's 4 topics and you need to choose 2 of those topics.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Yes, I see it now. Thank you.
No problem, no problem. So just let me know, Aubrey, all right? Let's see, Camila, okay. All right, so let's see, Kaya, if we do extra points. So if you do extra points, so if you do extra points either by volunteering here in the class or doing the extra point field trip assignments, that will certainly improve your grade a lot. Many of you have more than 100% when you count all the points. Okay, does that make sense? So. So Kaya is asking the question, so to get a good grade, be an above by the end of the year, what do I need to do? You need to learn. Okay, so that is a good advice for everyone. All right. Now let me turn very briefly here to the long essay exam. And in the long essay exam, let's see if we have the statistics for that. I think that you did all very, very well. I was so impressed with your depth, okay, and the level of your answers. As you can see, okay, this has very high grades, okay, you know. So you all did extremely well in this exam, okay. Something that average 82%. Wow, that is a very, very good average there here. So one of the things that I was the most impressed was the quality of your writing. You all wrote very well. With a few exceptions, the writing was outstanding. There were not a whole lot of grammar problems or issues like that. And so very, very good. And also you address the topic very well. One thing that I noticed, there were two things that I noticed, and I said I want to tell you this about the exam. One of them, oh yeah, these are the two things. For example, one of the questions was about using, describing the parts of the cell, okay? And many of you use analogies in order to describe the parts of the cell. For example, you would say, well, the nucleus is like the brain, the lysosome is like the garbage station, and so on. That is okay, but many times you need to be aware that analogies can get you into trouble. Okay, you can take the analogy too far, all right, and then kind of the analogy breaks down, all right. So that is one thing. So when you do this type of exams, try not to overuse analogies. Does that make sense? Is that understandable what I'm saying? The other thing, and I didn't discount any points for this, okay, because it was actually a mistake, an error in the lesson materials, especially in the flashcards. It kind of promotes this idea of the analogy, and it compares the nucleus of the cell with the brain, okay? I really, really, really don't like that comparison, okay? The nucleus of the cell cannot really be compared to the brain because there's really no will or it is really a bad comparison, okay? So I would compare, if you want to do a comparison, I would say that the nucleus of the cell is more like the library of the cell, containing all the instruction manuals. So the DNA are the books, and the genes are basically the instructions for building protein. So if you want to make a comparison, I would prefer that you think of the nucleus of the cell as the library of the cell, where all the information for creating everything that the cell needs is there. All right. I don't know if you remember that we said the principal dogma of cell science is DNA creates RNA, RNA creates protein. Okay, and so you have those three things: DNA, RNA, and proteins are basically the machines that the cells create to do everything else. Okay, so the nucleus is more like the library instead of the brain. So try to change that. Okay, so excellent. Any other questions about the exams? Let me go over here. All right. If we don't have any more questions, okay. Anna, would you like to share with us the first academic concept here for the lesson on roots?
Okay. Let's see. So academic concept number 1 is talking about plants and how they have different types of tissues that make up their cells. And from this lesson, I thought the videos were helpful in describing this concept. And in the first video, it talks about how there are 2 kinds of flowering plants, dicots and monocots. And the cot part of the dicots and monocots basically is referring to cotyledon, the baby plant leaf that's inside the seed. And so the 2 kinds, dicots and monocots, they have different characteristics. Like a dicot has 2 cotyledon, and its veins on the leaves of dicots, they're net-like. So they start at one point of the leaf and they spread to the rest of the parts, kind of like a hand or tree branches, I guess. And dicot's flowers, there's 4 to 5 petals on these flowers, and the root system is a taproot system where it's basically one main root and then there's little roots branching off of that, but basically just one main root for that root system.
Yeah. Anna, the flowers have 4 or 5 petals or multiples of 4 and 5.
Oh, okay.
So it could have 8, 16, okay.
Oh, okay, I didn't catch that part.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, that's cool. And then the monocots, these have 1 cotyledon, and their flowers have multiples of 3, so they could have 6, 9, 18, etc. And their root system is kind of like a net, where it comes off the stem, shooting out in all kinds of directions. So that would be like grass. And as you can see in a blade of grass, if you ever looked at that, their veins are parallel, just up and down. So I thought that was interesting, the different comparisons. And then, let's see, later in the video talks about how plants have a life above ground and a life below ground, the shoot system and the root system. And in the shoot system, plants, they can grow up, but they can also grow out, like the leaves you see on that picture. There's the nodes, which are where the leaves come out of the stem. And then there's internodes, which is the space between the different nodes. And so there's 3 types of main tissues: dermal, ground, and vascular. And the dermal tissues, they are kind of categorized into 2 different types of main cells, epidermis and peridermis. And these epidermis cells, they are composed of guard cells, and they surround stomatas, which are kind of like little doors or holes in the leaf that allow water in, and they also let carbon dioxide into the plant. And these epidermis cells, they're covered in wax-like substance, cuticle, and the purpose of these cells are to protect the leaves and stems, and they also keep the plant from losing too much water. And the peridermis cells, these provide protection for the plant, and they also help to keep the water inside the plant. And now ground cells, it's the second type of main tissues, and they're split up into 3 different types of cells: parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. I think it's funny to say those. But parenchyma, they're the typical type of plant cells, and they help with metabolism for the plant, like helping it to get ATP. And collenchyma, they help with the structure of a plant. They help the plant to be flexible so that it's not like snapped or brittle. And then sclerenchyma, they help with structure, but they're also very durable. So these are found in a lot of wood cells. They help the tree to be very strong and durable and rigid.
Mm-hmm. So the sclerenchyma is mostly the wood cells. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, let's see, the third main type of tissue is vascular. And it's funny how all these things are split off into 1 or 2 or 3 different groups, and then those 3 different groups are split up into lots of other subcategories. And so vascular is split up into 2 different subcategories, xylem and phloem. And xylem, this helps to move the waters from the roots to the rest of the tree. So the roots suck up water from the ground, and then the xylem carries it to the leaves or the branches or other parts of the trees. And the phloem, it helps to move sugars up and down throughout the plant. And without the phloem, I guess the plant would die because it wouldn't have any way to provide nutrients for itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes on in this video to talk about how plants, they grow from the top and the bottom. So they start the stem, the top of the stem, it grows longer, and the tips of the roots, they grow longer. And that's called apical meristem, up and down primary growth. And then there's a secondary growth, which is width. So it helps to increase the diameter, and the around part helps to widen out like a tree or something. And that's what I got from the first video.
Mm-hmm.
And so the second video kind of explains some of these same concepts in a different kind of way, but it kind of categorizes them differently. Like in this video, it talks about how there are 3 main plant organs: roots, stems, and leaves, and a tree is made up of meristematic tissues and permanent tissues. And meristematic tissues, they help basically to help the plant grow. They divide themselves and help the plant to grow taller and longer. So these are found on the tips of the stems and the roots. And I guess this oh, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things that they mention of these meristematic tissues is that the cells that are here in the apical meristem, either in the shoots or in the roots, they say they are undifferentiated. Do you know what that means, Anna? Or anyone? What would they mean that they are undifferentiated, if I'm saying that correctly?
Does it have to do something with the spacing between the cells?
That is one thing. So they do mention in this video that these meristematic cells are very close together. Okay.
Okay.
They are very small. Okay. What this means, let me try to explain it and see if this makes sense, is because these cells, these meristematic cells, are not, they are just cells to push the growth of the plant, of the organism. They are not specialized. They are not of any specific type. They are just there to divide and keep dividing very rapidly. But you cannot recognize one meristematic cell and say, oh, this cell looks like the cell of a leaf, or this other cell looks like the cell of a stem or a root. They are the same, okay? The same thing happens with animals. For example, in the human embryo, when the embryo is first conceived, the zygote starts dividing. These first cells, before you have actually a little baby, the cells that are called stem cells, they are undifferentiated. They all are the same, and they could turn to be bone cells or neural cells or epidermis cells, whatever. Okay, that is what that means. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay. So the reason these cells that are undifferentiated, they have the potential of becoming any type of cell.
Oh, okay.
Okay, a sclerenchyma, collenchyma, or parenchyma, or any whatever it is needed. Later on, they would start differentiating and then becoming specific to that tissue. Once a cell is differentiated and becomes part of a specific tissue, if that cell divides, it can only produce another cell of that type, but not of a different type. Okay.
Okay.
These cells, because they are undifferentiated, can produce cells of any type.
So kind of like stem cells in the human body can turn into heart cells or bone cells or things like that?
Exactly right. Exactly right. That is the same thing. So it's like the stem cells in humans or in animals. They could become any type of other cell. That's why they are so valuable for research. Okay. Once the cell is differentiated, it could only reproduce into another cell of that same type. Okay. So that's how it goes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Okay. So let's see, meristematic. Okay, I guess meristematic cells, they're split up into 3 different groups: apical, lateral, and intercalary. And apical, they help the plant to grow taller, and lateral helps the plant to increase in width, and intercalary helps to grow the leaves and the branches.
Yeah, and also it helps to lengthen the length between nodes. Okay. Sometimes these at the beginning, the nodes are very close together. If they expand, it's because of this intercalary meristem. Okay. It expands that part. Okay.
Okay. And then let's see. So there's that's meristematic cells or tissues, and then there's the second type of tissue called the permanent tissues. And these help the plant to get the nutrients and the food that it needs. And so these are split up into 2 different groups: simple permanent tissues and complex permanent tissues. And simple permanent tissues are parenchyma, collenchyma, and sclerenchyma. These have the similar build and composition. And then there's complex permanent tissues, and these are more than one type of cell. There's xylem and phloem. Xylem being the type of cell that transports waters from the roots to the rest of the plant, and phloem being the transporter for sugars and nutrients. And I think that's basically it.
Yes, very, very good. Excellent. So you see that it is interesting because here we have 2 very good videos doing kind of the same thing, but with a slightly different take, okay, on how the tissues are classified, okay? Still, we cover all the topics. The interesting thing, I found this second video to be more clear here on the meristematic tissue, okay? and the difference here between simple and complex tissue. So that was a little bit more in depth. But the first one mentions here about the epidermis and the peridermis that the other one didn't mention at all. Okay.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to really look, carefully at things. Okay. So excellent. Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much. Ryan,
You're welcome.
thank you. Would you like to do the second academic concept?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the second academic concept is roots bring water and nutrients to the plants. They anchor plants into the ground, and some roots store food during the winter. So, since we've gone over why or what roots are made of, we're now going to see why they're important. So, one thing that it said in the lesson, and I didn't realize, that was we needed to plant a seed, and I didn't realize that, so I wasn't able to do that. But
I have
if we look, okay. So I was looking at my notes so I can see them. Okay. So as you can see, the roots, they
I'm trying to take this flax one out. Okay, and it's pretty, even though this is just on paper, it's sticking to the paper quite a bit.
Yeah. Because of the since it's grown, the water has made it grown into the paper towel, right?
Yeah, let me see. Let's take this one out. This one is a P.
Okay.
Can you see it okay?
Yeah, I can.
All right, so this one is just 1 week.
Wow.
Okay, remember last week I put it in water on Tuesday, and then remember last class we took one apart and saw the seed coat, and I had this other one and I left it there. What can you see, Ryan?
Well, at the top there's the plant, and then at the bottom there's a root that's sticking out. So it's interesting because it's longer than the plant right now. So
why do you think?
Well, I think right now, since it's just beginning, the root's going to grow more because the root's what feeds the plant. So
that's right. So the first order of work that needs to happen is to develop the root. Okay. Wow. See, I cannot even take this flax one without breaking it.
Wow.
Okay, because the root. Let me see if I can show here, taking the whole paper out, the tissue out. Okay. The root goes and it has even poked through the tissue here.
That's interesting.
Yeah. These are very thin but very strong structures.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Where would the meristematic cells be in here, Ryan?
Would it be in the P? Okay.
The meristematic cells were the ones that basically do the growing. Okay.
Okay.
So they are probably here at the tip.
Oh, the root.
Okay. And then here at the tip of the shoot. Okay. And then they start differentiating, all right, and becoming parenchyma cells. Most of this would be parenchymal cells.
Okay.
What else can you see here in the root of this P?
That at the starting of the root, there's other parts of the root that have grown off.
Yeah, so we call, what do you think we call this?
Let's see, not sure.
Lateral roots?
Okay.
Okay, so remember that the P is a dicot, okay? So the two cots are still in here, okay? And, and they provide the food for all this growth to happen. And the dicots have a tap root, meaning one principal root, and then they have lateral roots along the way, okay?
Okay.
All right, so we see that the tap root is the one that is growing really big and strong, and then the lateral roots coming afterwards. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. This is pretty cool, huh?
Yeah. So let's see. I think it's really interesting how the plant is growing so straight right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really. So.
I'm going to kind of sacrifice this one because I broke the tall part of that, so I was thinking, well, we might as well just sacrifice it. Hopefully the other one is not totally done for. I'm going to put the P back. Okay, oops. All right, so we'll see if this one survive. These are called, in science, when you do this type of things, many times you have to do what is called sacrificial experiments, okay?
Yeah.
Try things out, and well, it's not going to survive the experiment, but that is okay because that lets you learn and observe things closely. Okay.
Yeah, that's part of the experiment.
Part of the experiment. Okay. So in here, let me see if I move this here. We see the beginning. See, this is very interesting. What is this brown thing here at the top?
Is that the seed?
Yeah, this is, remember, it's called the seed coat.
Okay.
Okay, that's just a coat coating the seed.
Okay.
It's made of sclerenchyma tissue. This is the dead, tough tissue, remember?
Okay, in the last lesson.
That's right, yeah. And then in here, what do we see? These are the two coats of the dicot. Okay. And they are going to develop in a preliminary leaf to start photosynthesis, okay, but then they are going to be replaced by actual real leaves.
Okay. So they're kind of the fake leaves right now.
That's right, yes. They do have chlorophyll because they are green, okay?
Yeah.
And so they could do photosynthesis, but that is not their main purpose.
Okay.
Okay. Good deal. Excellent. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so let's keep talking about then the functions of the root.
So the root does quite a few things. It keeps the plant from tipping over and falling, and then it also feeds the plant. So that's kind of its mouth, if you want to say it like that. So,
yeah.
So the root absorbs water and gives the plant pretty much everything it needs by soaking up the nutrients that it needs. So, let's see, and then since the plant can grow pretty far down into the ground, where it gets to the point where the ground's kind of hard. So, and then it attaches to stuff, so it's harder to, like, if you had like a small plant, it's a little bit harder to pull out. So
yeah, I read somewhere, I don't remember the source now, but I read that the meristematic cells of roots, okay, right at the root tip, they can produce about 3,000 pounds per square inch of pressure.
wow.
Okay, so imagine, when you have a bicycle, what is the pressure in the tire of a bicycle?
Let's see, I forgot it. I know what it is, but I just forgot.
About 32.
Yeah, I remember it was like
Yeah, so like a car tire has 32 psi. Okay, if you have a road bike that has the skinny tires, they have about 100 to 150 psi. Well,
wow.
these roots can exercise 3,000 psi right at the tip. So they can break rock, they can go through really tough stuff with that pressure.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it was funny because we used to have a garden, and whenever we'd let it overgrow, it would be just so hard to pull out the weeds and stuff. It was so annoying. So.
Yes, yeah, very, very hard to pull out weeds, especially to pull the whole thing.
Yeah. And then, and if you didn't get the roots out, it would just grow back. So.
That's right, yes. And that is also another function of the roots. Many times the roots can regenerate, have enough meristematic cells. Again, they need to have different undifferentiated cells in order to regrow the whole plant.
Yeah. Okay. And then another job that it has is storing food. So whenever, like, during the winter time where there's not a lot of, where it's like really cold, it's really hard for the plants to grow. And like, if you had like corn plants or plants like that where they're smaller, they don't grow, or they're not able to grow during the winter because they can't survive it. But if you had like a tree, the leaves would fall off, and it would seem kind of gray, like it was died, but it's like resting. So.
Absolutely, yeah. So the roots is what stays underground, hopefully at a higher temperature, just enough to keep the plant alive and allow it to regrow.
Yeah. Yeah, like we were growing corn too, and the roots weren't as thick as other plants. Like, I mean, trees, the roots in there are really big, depending on how big the tree is. But yeah, it was a little bit easier to pull like the corn plants. So. Yeah. Really interesting. So, let's see. So, let's see. Okay.
So yeah, so you talk about all the main functions of bringing water and nutrients, anchoring, okay, and providing also the food.
Okay.
Here in the article, it says absorption of water, anchoring the plant and supporting it, storage of food, and then vegetative reproduction. Do you know what that means, vegetative reproduction?
No.
That is what we were talking about when you said that if you don't pull the whole thing, the plant grows again, especially
okay.
weeds.
Oh, okay.
That is called vegetative reproduction. Okay. Wow.
Okay.
And weeds are very, very good at that.
Yeah. Yeah, better than most plants. So,
Yes, especially the field vine weed or morning
yeah.
glory. Good.
Oh,
Excellent. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Nathan, would you like to take us to the next principle and then the gospel principle?
Yes, so in the Gospel Principle 3, it is, academic concept 3 is how do plants prevent erosion? And I watched this video. It was on the lesson, and it showed 2 different hills. Yeah, it was soil and soil erosion simulation, and what it did, it had a hill with plants on it, then a hill with no plants on it, and it showed when the rain came, that since the hill, one of the hills had plants on it,
Stopping soil. Look at this.
it gave the hill support. So, but when the other one did not have it, it just made all the dirt move around, and then it deformed. So, if there's a plant on a hill and it roots goes down into the mountain or wherever it is, and it gives that ground support, so when it rains, the water won't deform the ground from its original its original format.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead.
And the same with our testimonies, if we have if our roots are deep and our beliefs are deep, and then when the devil comes with his reigns, then if we're securely deep, then it won't do anything to us because we are firm in our beliefs. And in seminary one time, our teacher said, it will be easier to stand against Satan if you decide beforehand what you want to do. If you just decide the day before that when your friends that day, that morning before you go to school, that you won't take the cigarette that your friends offer you, then you're going to have a hard time. But if you decide one time that you're never going to do it ever again, then that's going to be really easy because you are firm in your belief and your roots are deep.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you very much. I live in Saratoga Springs, which is on the west side of Utah Lake here in Utah. And one year we had right in the mountains that are by the lake, west of the lake, there was a fire, and the fire basically destroyed all the vegetation, okay? And not only burned the vegetation, but left a layer of ashes, okay? This layer of ashes was, a good 2 or 3 inches deep of ashes, and there was no vegetation around. And then in September, there was a storm, a rainstorm, and it rained pretty hard for about 24 hours. But towards the end of the rainstorm, all the water of the rain had soaked into the ashes of the fire, and then it all started moving down because there was nothing to anchor the ashes. And so we had a mudslide, and it came down the mountain, and it damaged 11 houses there in our neighborhood. Okay, and so after all the cleanup effort and everything was taken care of and so on, the people, the city planted seeds all over the mountainside again in order to restore the vegetation as fast as possible. And then we never had that problem again since then. Okay, so luckily I wasn't affected myself, but I had some friends that their homes were affected, and my sons and I, we were part of the cleanup effort. We were there taking mud out of the basements of houses and water and everything. It was really quite an experience, but that was kind of a first-hand experience on the power of roots in order to prevent erosion. Okay. And that is, like Nathan, like you were saying, very similar to how when our testimonies are deeply rooted in the gospel, then it's a lot easier to withstand any temptations and trials that will come. Okay, we may not have them now or yet, but those things will happen. Okay. Anybody wants to add anything else, Nathan, or anyone else?
I'm good.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very, very much for your participation. Patrick asked, dandelions are weeds? Yes, they are weeds because they grow all over the place. Now, I've heard that you can eat dandelions, you can eat the leaves of the dandelions before they flower. So if you take the dandelion plant and harvest the leaves before they flower, then you can have a very nice salad. Okay, so if someone is courageous enough to do that in the spring, I invite you to do that. Okay, once the dandelion flowers, then the leaves turn really bitter. So don't do it after flowering. Okay. Keya, would you like to dismiss us with prayer, please?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Dear Heavenly Father, we're very grateful that we could come to class today, and we're grateful for everything we learned. Please help us to have a good rest of our day, and that we will be able to finish the assignments and to get a good grade on them. And we're grateful for everything our teacher does for us and all the effort he spends on this. And please help us that we'll have a good rest of our week, and that we will be able to be missionaries and feel the Spirit. And I say these things in Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Kaya, and thank you, everyone. Okay. I'll let you know when the quiz is posted online, so you can start taking the quiz. And again, if any of you need to take the exams again, okay, or you haven't had the chance to do it, let me know through email. All right. Thank you very, very much.